Thanks very much. And our last presentation before the coffee break this morning is from Integra Gold. I often describe Integra when I'm writing about them as the busiest junior explorer potentially in the world. I mean, that's a big scope, but they've got 7 drill rigs turning on a very interesting, high quality asset. They have raised at current count, it's about over $85 million in the last 3 years of this terrible market. They've obviously been able to access a lot of interest from investors and support. They're executing a really interesting competition right now where they're getting geologists around the world to dive into a huge trove of historic data to come up with the next multi-million ounce target on their historic land package. It's a land package that includes an essentially operated, almost permanent mill, which really influences what the costs will be to get this thing into production. Really interesting story, very dynamic team, very dynamic asset, and so I will let Steve DeJong tell you more about it.
Hello everyone, my name is Steve DeJong, the President and CEO of Integra Gold. I've been with the company since 2012, and just for today's presentation, last week we announced the financing. We're raising $15 million at 50 cents. I am restricted to talk a little more about the past and whatnot versus the forward-looking statement. So you will see the presentation. We're going to focus a lot on what Integra's accomplished in the last year and a little bit about where we're going. For the AV guys, there's a video at the end of this presentation that has sound. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Integra, 3 years ago when I joined in July 2012. A few months later at the Christmas party, there were 6 of us. Integra at the time was about a $12 million company. We are now a $120 million company, and as of last week, we have 60 employees. So it's a little bit different story for your junior gold explorer in that we've grown a lot over the last few years. Our market cap has increased by, we're looking at 1,000% essentially. We've issued shares as we've gone. Share price has increased by about 80% since that time. During a time when the GDXJ and other indicators of the gold space, the resource space, have gone down by an average about 75 to 80%. So what we're going to talk about today is really focus on what has Integra done differently and how do we plan over the next few years, the next coming months and years, to continue to add value for our shareholders. I also just want to say thanks to Eric and Gwen and Brent and everyone else here for showing up today. It's really encouraging for us to see that there is still a level of interest in our space. As far as forward-looking statements, as I mentioned, I'll try to keep it a little more to the past. A little bit on the price of gold, the gold market, supply, demand, and whatnot. There were some slides in Patrick's presentation right before that I'll go back to. We are very big believers in the gold space. We're not here to say that in the next 2 months or 3 months gold's going to turn around and whatnot, but if you do look at the fundamentals of gold, aside from just demand for gold, but really looking at the lack of discoveries, the lack of exploration that's taking place, and everything else that's going on, what you're seeing is essentially the pipeline for projects in the gold space has been decimated. There's very little exploration taking place. There's no permitting taking place. Should the gold price turn around, at some point what you're going to see is the whole market will realize there's nothing really there to backfill it. Money isn't going towards exploration aside from a few key projects. We're looking at the last 2 years here, going back to 2014 and 2015. As Gwen mentioned, we've raised about $70 million now, not including last week's financing. $70 million, something we're very proud of is that $70 million, all the money raised is at or below current prices, and every warrant issued with any of those financings is in the money right now as well. So I know that everyone here is probably here because they believe in uranium or gold in the resource sector and they see an opportunity there. At the end of the day, we don't invest in companies because we believe in gold. We're investing in companies to make money. And that is what we really strive for at Integra, is to find ways to extract the value. A few things that Gwen mentioned, like the challenge we're doing, a mill acquisition we made, trying to come up with ideas and to create value for our shareholders. A very important number for us, and Lee touched on this a bit with NextGen, is the cost to cover the cost it takes to discover ounces. At Integra in the last 2 years, we're averaging about $10 an ounce. It's a very important number because when you look at Integra's market cap or Integra's valuation, we get about $30 to $40 an ounce, depending how you look at it, in what the market sees. So our ability to raise capital, turn that into ounces, and then get that valuation in the market is how we create value for our shareholders. Looking at the last 2 years, I'm going to start in late 2014. We made a transformational acquisition. We acquired the property next door to us. It's a 2,200 ton per day fully permitted mill. It came with the 2 old mines, the Sigma and Lamaque mines, which produce 9 million ounces of gold. They're essentially why the city of Val-d'Or exists, and our project, the Lamaque project, is sitting just outside the city of Val-d'Or. We made this acquisition, and it was a total of $6 million in shares and cash. It was an interesting acquisition for us because all of a sudden we're now a permitted project that took $100 million in capex right off the table. But at the same time, we got a lot of kudos in the market and from the Ministry of Environment in Quebec because that asset had a big environmental liability tied to it. It was the old waste rock piles from the Sigma Lamaque mines, or from the Sigma mine, sorry. That waste rock pile, what we did with it, the day we made that acquisition, we took that waste rock pile and we sold it to one of Quebec's largest construction companies. They paid us $1 million cash, so it reduced our purchase price, and they took on those environmental liabilities. The next day, the Quebec Minister of Natural Resources came out and said, this is exactly what the industry needs. More people, more companies like Integra coming up with creative solutions to deal with dormant projects, environmental liabilities, and at the same time, kind of push their projects forward. That waste rock pile is now a gravel quarry and employs about 40 people. And if you've ever been to Val-d'Or, there's a large waste rock pile overshadows the town. It's now being removed. And over the next 20 years, that's going to slowly disappear. What that did for us is it really changed how the market looks at Integra. We're now a very exciting exploration project. We've got something called the Triangle Deposit. That's 2 kilometers away from the mill and just outside the city limits of Val-d'Or. But now we have all the permits we need to take the Triangle Deposit and the rest of our project into production. Going forward into 2015, at the beginning of 2015, sort of late 2014, 2015, we received a letter from the Canadian Environmental Assessment Agency saying they were going to allow us to take all the permits from that mill and amend them to include our Triangle project as well, our Triangle Deposit. That took about 2.5 years off the permitting timeline. So from an environmental standpoint, our entire project is fully permitted, both provincially and federally. So going forward, we just have to make sure we have enough gold to make it work. In 2015, one of the busiest years, well, the busiest year we've ever had, even though we've got some big plans for 2016, we drilled 90,000 meters, 90,000 meters of drilling. We had 2 resource estimates and an updated PEA in which we included the acquisition of that mill into the economics of the project. After that PEA, we came up with an updated resource estimate in March of 2015. And later on that year, just in November of 2015, we'd update that again. So right now, we're going through the process of updating our PEA. Since that PEA was last done, we've had 2 resource estimate updates. The big number that we really draw attention to is in that last PEA, and the economics in that PEA worked well because gold was at 1350 Canadian, and gold right now is almost at 1600 Canadian. Because of the declining dollar, we have a real advantage. When you look at the last PEA compared to what we're working on now, the Triangle Deposit produced a total of 230,000 ounces in that last PEA, or recovered 230,000 ounces. The Triangle resource right now is 1.2 million ounces, so it's grown substantially since. We have 7 drills turning. We've heard that we may be the busiest exploration or pure exploration company on the planet. I'm not sure about that, but we're doing everything we can to continue that exploration story going. We'll actually be increasing. We'll be at 10 drills within the next 2 weeks. Of those 7 drills right now, 6 are on the Triangle Deposit. And what you'll see, we had some drill results last week, the week before. We're continuing a very continuous news flow for Integra. One other thing that happened in 2015, and this was mentioned right at the beginning, and actually in Gwen's initial speech, she went through and there was 4 points. What should we look for in this market? Strong economics, easy to build, strategic investment made it in there, ability to raise capital. We don't have any zinc exposure, so we didn't quite complete the checklist, but we do have great currency exposure. When we go through and look at what we've been able to accomplish at Integra, the real reason we think so is because we tick all the boxes. We're permitted, we're high grade, so we're able to survive in these low gold price environments. We have a phenomenal team. You're looking at a team built of primarily ex-Gold Corp, Barrick, IM Gold, and Placer Dome. A lot of relevant experience. A lot of our people actually used to work at the Sigma mine across the road. And when you go through, we also have the advantage of access to capital. And we think Canada is one of the best places in the world to be. We can take advantage of flow through, which allows us to continue to go forward and not dilute to the same extent. The financing we announced last week was $15 million at 50 cents. Our stock right now is trading at 31 cents. So it's a good idea, or gives a good picture in the advantages of being in Canada and jurisdictions like Quebec. So I give my entire presentation to one slide. Going back, Eldorado made a 15% investment at 28 cents in August 2015. The financing we announced last week, Eldorado, you'll see if anyone reads the press release, there's a little financing on the side for $2.5 million. Eldorado's maintaining its 15% interest in the company going forward. So looking forward, 2015 was 90,000 meters. We're looking between 90,000 and 100,000 meters of drilling, primarily on the Triangle deposit, but we've got a few other zones, step-outs that we'd like to test. A very key part of our story is that mill that we have, that 2,200 ton per day mill. It's slightly larger than what we actually need. So if we can make another discovery, we're not looking at just adding mine life to our project. We look at increasing the annual throughput. So those are very relevant ounces versus getting years 15 through 20 of your mine life. Now looking forward, so Q1 2016, you can expect a lot of drill results going forward, closing of financing, getting towards Q2, one other thing in Q1, we're having the final showdown for this contest that Gwen mentioned. And there's a video at the end I'm going to show about that, but essentially what we did was when we finished that mill acquisition in 2014, it came with two old mines, the Sigma and Lamaque mines. They produced 9 million ounces of gold, collectively about 250,000 ounces per year. The Lamaque mine for 30 years was the largest gold producer in all of Quebec. We acquired all the data from those mines, and we looked at this data set from two different companies. One was Teck and one was Placer Dome. It had never been put together, even though the mines were only 500 meters apart. We took that data set, and because we're so focused on Triangle, and that's how we see the real value creation for our shareholders right now, we took that data set and we made it public. It's no different than what Gold Corp did 15 years ago, which they say, or Rob McEwen, the founder of Gold Corp, will tell you led to $6 billion in gold discoveries. We took that data set, we made it public, and we put $1 million prize out there for anyone who can take it, compile it, be it a PhD geologist, computer scientist, give us the exploration targets. So we've gone through that process. We had just over 1,350 people sign up for it from 70 different countries. That closed in December. It's down to 20 semi-finalists now, and we have a panel of judges of well-known industry people that are going through those 20 semi-finalists, and they're bringing it down to 5 finalists. And at PDAC this year, we're hosting an event where the 5 finalists have to get up on stage, and in front of a crowd, we're selling tickets to it for charity, and all the money's going to local Val-d'Or charities. They have to get up, and on stage they'll be going head-to-head against Randy Smallwood, the CEO of Silver Wheaton, Sean Rosen, the CEO of Osisko, Rob McEwen, the founder of Gold Corp, Brent Cook, who some of you may have heard of, and Chantal Gosselin, a fund manager, mining engineer from Toronto. So we're trying to add a little bit of excitement to what we do. The feedback we've had, we've teamed up on this event with IBM, Amazon Data Services, Macquarie, Orbit Garant, and a number of other key sponsors to make it happen. In doing so, we were actually able to raise the bulk of that $1 million just through sponsorship, so we don't have to use our shareholders' money to do it. This is the kind of thing you can expect from Integra going forward. There's a few analysts that cover us. We have 10 analysts cover us. The feedback we get is we're the most fun company to cover out there. So in March, we'll come out with that. We'll announce the winner, and then we'll go out and test those targets. And like I mentioned, if we can make another discovery, our mill can handle it. Looking at second quarter next year, that's when that updated PA will come out. You'll see a lot of drill results continue to go through. Third quarter is we'll take all those drill results and we'll put it into an updated resource estimate. And at the same time in the third quarter, we'll kick off our underground exploration program. So we'll start getting underground to properly explore, do close space drilling, bulk sampling, get a feel for what the Triangle deposit really has to offer.